All right, straight to a Fox News alert now, just this hour. The IDF says it has several hospitals in northern Gaza surrounded as they look to end Hamas's rule in the Palestinian enclave.
Israel's Prime Minister maintains that a ceasefire is not an option until all the hostages are released, but insists that it has no long-term intentions of governing Gaza.
This comes as the Pentagon confirms at least 46 attacks carried out by Iran-backed proxies on U.S. military bases in the Middle East.
Oh, great. We'll just target another weapons depot. Now let's go to Trey Yingst, who's on the ground in southern Israel with the latest. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. We understand right now there are heavy battles ongoing inside Gaza City. I do want to just step out of the frame and show you the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Quite a bit of destruction here as the Israelis are using artillery units and their air force to support those infantry troops inside Gaza. As you note, Israeli media reports 3 hospitals in Gaza City are currently surrounded. The Israelis believe there are Hamas fighters inside. The complexity of this, though, there are still patients inside. Thousands of Palestinians still not heeding those warnings by the Israelis to head to the south. Some in the hospital simply don't have the ability to do so. We know the Israelis overnight say they killed a number of members from Hamas's elite Nukba forces who participated in the October 7th massacre. This includes company commanders and platoon commanders from Hamas and also the head of the organization's sniper array in the northern part of Gaza. This comes as the Israelis say 80,000 Palestinians took an evacuation route from the northern part of the Gaza Strip to the southern part just yesterday. They're encouraging as many Palestinians to get out of the battlefield as possible. Now, overnight, Bret Baier asked Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about a potential pause in the fighting. Here's what he had to say.
Specifically, the administration talked about some kind of 4-hour pause numerous times. Is that true, that there's going to be some stoppage?
No, the fighting continues against the Hamas enemy, the Hamas terrorists.
We do know that raids inside Gaza continue. The Israelis say they've recovered a number of weapons and plans by Hamas fighters inside the Strip. And it does come as the fighting intensifies, not just here, but also along the northern border with Lebanon. The Israelis say they are striking Lebanon at this moment following anti-tank guided missile attacks. Lots of developments here on the ground. You can hear an Israeli drone overhead, and the fighting is expected to intensify in the coming hours. Guys, back to you.
Hey, Trey, how valuable is this guy, Yahya Sinwar? They say that that's their bin Laden. That's the guy on the ground who orchestrated all this, is in charge. How furious is that manhunt?
Yahya Sinwar is the #1 target for the Israeli military following the October 7th massacre. Just to give you some background on Hamas as an organization, you have Sinwar, who is the head of Gaza and the military wing of Hamas, and then you have Ismail Haniyeh, a man who's based in Qatar, who deals with the political bureau of Hamas. And so these two figures are critical to the organization, but Sinwar is largely seen as the mastermind behind the October 7th massacre. He's known as the Butcher of Khan Yunis, a man who was previously in charge of killing anyone who collaborated with Israel in the past. And so this is an incredibly dangerous person. But we should note, one question we've been asking to the Israelis is, do they know where Sinwar is? Originally, they said he may be underneath the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City, but we know there's a tunnel network underneath the Gaza Strip. He could have fled to the south. He may not even be inside Gaza. We have no evidence of where Sinwar is, but again, the Israelis say he is the #1 target following the massacre on October 7th.
So, Trey, now that they have a lot of these hospitals surrounded, are they going through the hospitals before, or are they trying to evacuate civilians before they make their move? What's the plan? What are you seeing on the ground there?
So the Israelis have multiple hospitals in the northern part of the Gaza Strip surrounded, according to reports. But again, there are still patients inside. And this is an incredibly complex battlefield right now for the Israelis. And they are being urged by the United States and other international bodies to be careful as they operate inside Gaza City, because we know that Hamas is fighting from civilian areas, not only from civilian areas, but from hospitals. The Al-Shifa hospital, the largest hospital in all of the Gaza Strip, houses Hamas militants, according to the Israelis. And we even saw a video that was released yesterday from another hospital in northern Gaza where you could see gunmen inside where there are patients. And so there are questions today about how the Israelis will deal with this complexity, how they will operate to destroy Hamas but not kill civilians in the process.
All right. All right, Trey, thank you so much.
Trey.
Benjamin Netanyahu was on with Brett Baier, as Trey was mentioning, and he said a ceasefire is not an option unless these hostages are released. He said if we have a ceasefire, that means surrendering to not only Hamas, but to terrorists. And he says we do not seek to govern or to occupy Gaza because that's a rumor. They want to take over that property. He's saying, no, we're just trying to reduce the civilian casualties by going in strategically and wiping out Hamas, this terror organization. He says yesterday, 2 days ago, there were 50,000 that passed to the south through safe passage, because Israel has said, if you live in the north, get out. If you're a civilian, get out and go to the south, because Gaza City's in the north, and that's where the Hamas headquarters is. And he said today, he was speaking yesterday with Brett Baier, he said yesterday another 70,000 have passed. So many are wondering, you know, Israel's bombing this area, all these civilians are dying, but they do have the opportunity to get out. And the numbers, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, are pretty high of those who are leaving.
Yeah, they've had the opportunity time and time again to allow civilians to leave. It seems to be only our State Department and our White House that's clamoring for these pause after pause after pause. And Bibi made it clear, we're going to finish this fight. You know who else has made it clear? Iran. They're not deterred at all. We bomb a weapons depot, whatever that means.
Second time.
For the second time, and there are 4 more attacks. If your counterattack is leading to more attacks, that is the definition of not deterring anybody.
Right. 46
and that makes
total
it,
so far.
Absolutely. And that makes it more likely that it does escalate. By not doing enough, you lead to more war.
What would you do with your military experience?
Well, I've never been the commander-in-chief, but somebody else has. And here's what Donald Trump was on Univision last night. And here's a portion of what he said about how you stare down someone when you've got that kind of a threat. Watch.
You're going to end up in a world war. We have an incompetent leader of the United States. He can't walk off a stage. He can't find the stairs. He can't put 2 sentences together. He can't talk. And this man is dealing with Putin and President Xi and all of these people that would probably not say they love us. But we have somebody that's negotiating for us. And, you know, when you talk about negotiating, you're talking about the biggest threat in this world today. The biggest threat is nuclear weapons.
So, Ainsley, his point is speak clearly and boldly to your enemy and then make decisive action that sends that message.
Well,
How much is a risk-adverse, Lawrence, how much is a risk-adverse Pentagon and how much is him?
I think it's probably, I mean, what Trump's pointing out there is it's a combination of both. You have a Pentagon has a track record of failure in looking at Afghanistan. You've got a lot of leaders who feel
Didn't stand up to the political leaders and said it couldn't happen. We're going to lose.
Absolutely, appear outside of their depth on that, and not unwilling to stand up. And then to Trump's point, what kind of strategic thinking is Joe doing right now?
But he also seems insistent of undermining Bibi publicly. He did not have to answer that question the way he did yesterday about being disappointed, I guess, about the pause not happening soon enough. And of course, Bibi, when he was on Brett Baier, Brett asked him about that. He's not going to be critical of the United States because the U.S. is all that he has right now. But to send that flare up so the international community can see, hey, we're putting pressure on Israel in the middle of a conflict that Hamas started right now. So I don't understand the White House's play on that.
Well, and when Benjamin Netanyahu, when Brett played that soundbite of Biden saying this is not happening quick enough, he said it's not happening quick enough for me either. But the U.S., we don't have ISIS anymore or Al-Qaeda because the U.S. took a long time to wipe them out, but they did. He said, I hope it doesn't take that long, but we are not leaving until we eradicate Hamas. He also talked about Rashida Tlaib and asked about that video she posted on X saying she doesn't agree with President Biden, and then she posted the protesters yelling from the river to the sea. And he said, let me tell you what that means. That means from the Jordan River all the way to the Mediterranean. That means no Israel. And he said, people might be naive and might not be able to understand all of this, but she knows what she's saying. And he praised our House lawmakers for censuring her. He also said this about all the protests at higher education, all of our colleges.
I think the protests that you're seeing, I'm sure it includes some naive people, but there are a lot of people who know exactly what they're saying. They're lining up with ISIS, with Al-Qaeda, with these murderers, with these baby murderers, with these rapists, and with these mutilators, these head choppers. And we have to protect not only our lives, but our future. Can our world survive if people go and with such moral confusion and, in fact, moral depravity, support these killers, these murderers. And I'll tell you something, this is an indictment of, I suppose, of higher education in many places in the West, when people who are supposedly educated cannot distinguish right from wrong and good from evil. Hamas is evil. Hamas is evil, and we have to defeat evil, not protest and demonstrate on behalf of evil.
And the anti-Semitism is raging out of control. I've never seen it in my lifetime, never thought I would. 12 o'clock, kids walked out of school yesterday. Supported by pro-Palestinian causes. At 4 o'clock, a massive demonstration up Fifth Avenue, right in New York City. And as you guys know, he went to college here.
Yeah.
He understands America. He doesn't need to get a briefing. He understands our political process. That's why when the nuclear deal came out, he knew he didn't have a partner with Obama. He went right to Congress. And right now, he is looking at a situation where he's dealing with Hamas getting blowback, knowing Hezbollah is another major issue. But the big problem is Iran. Is he going to do Hamas the best he can and then leave that nuclear program intact?
I think that's
really?
I think that's the right question, Brian. Ultimately, Israel's fighting for its existential existence. Gaza and Hamas is a portion of it. But imagine if Iran had the nuclear weapons that it wants. And they're close because of Obama and Biden administrations. If that's going to be taken care of, it's probably going to be by
the Jewish peoples. It's a small group. Yeah. I think 16 million. And if you talk to your friends that are Jewish, they're going through a lot. They're not sleeping. They're scared to walk through their college campuses. You've talked to a lot of them,
well,
Lawrence.
Ainsley, to your point about what's happening, what the Jewish friends are going through, Bibi, as Brian noted, went to school here. So I went to MIT to see what was going on there. I went to Campus Reform, who monitors what's happening on these college campuses. And one Jewish student on the college campuses said she was outraged because they were chanting from the river to the sea and also calling for an intifada. So she went to the campus harassment office to report this. They're supposed to handle these anti-Semitic attacks, any violence against students. And they told her that she needed to go to therapy. That's what's happening on the college campuses. Now imagine.
Instead of doing something about it, they're telling her she has the problem.
Imagine any inverse situation of that.
Right.
People, let's say a Muslim kid was being harassed.
Muslim
go to therapy? Are you kidding me?
Well, I love this. In Colombia, they have one of their major donors just resigned from the board. This guy, Henry Swica, he says, to my deep regret, the reputation integrity of Columbia University is no longer something he wants to be a part of. A lot of billionaires are pulling their money out. I think a lot of Hollywood's divided, too. Yeah. So hopefully people realize it's not okay to get along. You have to make a decision. So, and good luck with that. You could go side with the Palestinians. You know, see where that gets you.
Yeah. And then there's the tens of billions of undisclosed donations to those institutions over the last 20 years.
From the Middle East.
From the Middle East, indeed.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.